Hello, hello.
Hello,
I,
hello. Nice to see you, Sarah. Nice to see you, Sabine.
for the
Nice to see
opening, I believe it's your American premiere of this film at the Leo Baeck Institute next week in New York City. Is that correct?
you. It is correct, yes.
My first question to you has to do with the title of the film and the theme. So you say it's das Land meiner Eltern und es ist auch mein Land. It's also my country, and they are no longer here, but I am here. And then it gets quite complex.
Yeah, the film is called In the Country of My Parents. And when I say at the beginning, it was their country, but it is now also my country. It is, in a way, appropriating or affirming myself that I have decided to live in that country. I can say that by now, with all the investments I did in that country, and the country did in me too, I can say it is my country too. Still, in my last film that we have shown at the Leo Baeck Institute, eine Frau, a woman, in my last film I say my country is Argentina. So there is a dichotomy there, but I have to live with that. That people who leave their countries to live somewhere else, they have not only one country. In the meanwhile, also Greece, I consider my country because I am very often in Greece. Yeah, Germany became also my country.
At that time, I think you were new back to Germany. I think you mentioned that you had lived there for 5 years at that point, but you were on the search for an identity. And you also interviewed many other people who expressed similar searching for an identity, trying to find a home.
Yeah, this idea of finding a home is a very complex one. I feel that I belong to many cultures and many countries, and also to the German culture and country. As I said, Argentina, where I come from, the country that was a haven for my parents and for my family when they had to leave Germany during the Nazi time. But I think the more countries we have and the more countries we feel associated to, the less wars we will start. So that is maybe a good idea.
But you know, when your film was at the Berlinale, the one before in 24 was rescreened at the Retrospektive, I think I had the impression people were very impressed by the actuality of the film. Did you feel the same way?
No, no. Things change, and I cannot feel the same way. So many things have happened. In the meanwhile, today in Germany, we have situations that are even worse than they were then. We have a party called AfD, which is a nationalistic right-wing party that has Nazistic elements in it. And it had an enormous success in the elections. And that is very scary. It's a party that should be prohibited. This way of thinking that they have, this nationalistic thinking, is changing also the cultural face of Germany. But never it was so strong like now. How long is it possible to not have them in the government?
I remember when in 89, when Berlin was reunificated, and you said that the ruins now, because of the new architecture, will be vanishing, because you thought these ruins are a very valid memory for keeping in mind what happened in the past to avoid it for the future. Do you think there were many mistakes done and that these symbols of the past have been abolished?
Yeah, I guess it's not only the symbols of the past, it's also an attitude. Even when the wall fell, the wall separating East and West Germany, we were saying the wall of shame has fallen also. There was a feeling in Germany that what happened in the Second World War would be forgotten. And the fact that the Jewish population and the Sinti population have been chased away of the country has been forgotten. In 2024, we have more than 8,000 anti-Semitic attacks in Germany, okay? This is 70 or 78% more than the year before. That means every year there are more anti-Semitic attacks against synagogues and against restaurants with Jewish food. And these attacks are mostly anti-Israeli, anti-Semitic attacks. That means a lot has been forgotten. The fact of these ruins disappearing, the witnesses of a time disappear, and with that also the time disappears. Still, I mean, in Germany, the culture of remembering has been treated very carefully, and there is a lot of remembrance. There is a museum in the meanwhile. I talk about, at that time, there was no Jewish museum when I made the film. Now there is a Jewish museum, very beautiful Jewish museum, and there is much more of this active remembering. Still, the danger of right-wing extremism is there and never disappeared.
Is that one of the reasons why you chose this film for the Leo Baeck Institute showing?
I chose this film. At one point, we were thinking of doing a retrospective of all my films, and this would be one of the first films of my careers. And I thought also that this film, in a way, has a lot to do with what is happening.
Well, one of the scenes that you begin the film with is the scene of you walking in silence through the cemetery, through the Jewish cemetery. And it seems very peaceful, and it seems very symbolic and act of your own personal remembrances. And then suddenly there are gunshots. The gunshots from the military Schießanlage, the shooting range, which is right next door.
History and remembering, and also this beautiful Jewish cemetery, reminds us that there was a blooming, beautiful commune of Jews in Bruchsal, and now there is none. And it's a cemetery where many of my ancestors are there. And then really, this happened to me that the first time I went there, I suddenly heard this shooting. And it is this shooting place of the army, of the German army there. And I couldn't believe it. I think it's very important, this silence in the cemeteries, because the silence is filled with the stories and the phantoms of the past.
Yes.
And when you go to a cemetery, you want to have a contact to that.
One of the things that I thought was really touching was because you narrate this film, when you're interviewing people, sometimes they say something and your response is silence.
You see, I think that anyhow, we have too many sounds in our lives, and we are attacked by too much loudness. And I think that in cinema and in telling a film like this, a moment of silence are going to help the spectator to tell herself or himself stories. You open the hearts with that. You open the possibility of associating, of letting things happen. Silence makes us a little wiser sometimes.
How did the idea come to tell the story with this wonderful young girl?
When we started working, then I met Anna. And I thought, there it is. That is my red line. With this girl through the film, I can tell the story. I immediately sensed that I could not tell the story only through me, that I needed to have something else. She represents childhood, innocence. And so I think that it helps us to go through the film.
I wanted to ask you about the juxtaposition in the film of some of the street scenes in Berlin, of the coldness, people sitting alone on stones next to each other and looking the other way and not speaking. And then you contrast with it with the warmth of the Jewish family, especially the Russian family, with the vibrant music and almost effusive personalities, which is so contrary to the other scenes that you're showing about Germany that you were experiencing.
But I wanted to make a point, and the point was that I met a lot of times this distancing. I come from Argentina. We kiss each other all the time. Okay? And when you meet somebody, you kiss. When I arrived in and I tried to kiss everybody there, it was not successful. So also, when I came to Germany, I had very, very colorful sweaters and dresses and stuff. Well, being in Ulm and in the School of Design, which was very much Bauhaus, I had to change that too. Like I had to change not kissing everybody. I had to change my ways also a little bit and cut my hair a little bit like they did and wear black.
But you are more known as a fiction filmmaker, and you have a worldwide reputation for that, also writing your own screenplay. But what draws you once in a while to make also documentary films?
After I had made my first film, Malou, which was in Cannes and had an award and so on, Martin Wiebel asked me, he had seen Malou, and he said, would you make a diary out of this theme? And that was the start of In the Country of My Parents.
So in case you work on a next project, would you be more inclined to work on a documentary project, or are you more interested in doing a fiction?
It's going to be a fiction with documentary pieces.
Is there anything else, Jeanine, that you'd like to mention about the film?
Maybe the fact that the political fact in Germany that we're having a lot of trouble, like you are having trouble in the USA, with the not only the anti-Semitic attacks and anti-Semitic moments, but the anti-Israeli moment. And that is something that is worrying me more and more. Also because what is happening in Israel and in Gaza is very, very worrying, very, very sad. And it's the end of a lot of dreams. And it's a catastrophe. You cannot talk about Judaism today or what it means to be Jew today without talking about this catastrophe. And I hope so much that war stops and the people that are taken by Hamas come back and the children in Gaza stop dying. I hope so much. Every night, every day.